Hello, and welcome to our webinar on how to identify lending opportunities earlier. This is the latest in a series of webinars, video tutorials and product guides following the recent launch of Slide on the App Store. On-demand access to this webinar and all other content is free to view on the resources section of our website, theslideapp.com. My name's Graeme McKee. I'm the Director of Marketing for Slide and Slide's parent brand, Cashback. Joining me today is Slide's Chief Commercial Officer, Simon Lyons. Simon has worked in digital banking for over 25 years and has specialised in digital platforms, transactions, data and payments. I'll pass over to Simon now to talk you through today's agenda.
Hello everybody, it's Simon Lyons here. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer. Just to run you through what we're going to try and do today. We're hopefully going to try and make this an interactive and interesting session. We want you to be able to see the benefits we can deliver. So I'm going to run through today what's about Slide, the challenges of lending, how we're going to find those lending with you. We want to build some relationships, want to give you a real world example. We want to look into data. We want to give you the difference that we bring out, which is relationships, and then tell you what's next. Obviously, we've only just started this journey. We hope you're going to join us, and at the end, we've got a couple of Q&As. So, first of all, let's look at Slide. Let's talk about what we've got. Slide was envisioned 4 years ago by a gentleman called Paul Ormrod. Paul has worked in large manufacturing scale industries and technology for many years within the banking as a specialist stockbroker, and he decided there's all this huge technology for big business, but wouldn't it be great if we brought some of that down to the smaller business, to the SME segment? And the big thing that Slide delivers is something very important. It's a banking app. It tells you what has happened. It tells you what is happening, which is today, but more importantly, it tells you what is going to happen. It will allow your customers to be able to build a cash flow within a bank app. Now that's only enabled because we're an open banking regulated provider. The change in banking regulations has given us the chance to be able to show a completely new view to your customers. We can show them what's going to happen. We can give them data from maybe loan repayments, from direct debits and standing orders in the bank, from accountancy platforms. We can put that data in front of the customer so they can see what tomorrow looks like. This is very different from the cash flow forecasting. This is actually cash flow prediction. It's management within a banking app. It's not a separate tool. I can't tell you how important that last statement is, that we're going to make it easy for your clients to be able to build out what they see for their future. Hopefully today we're going to give you the chance to communicate with your market a lot easier. We're going to give you the chance to see more of those customers. So instead of being reactive to lending, we're going to make you proactive. So the biggest challenge today, we've spoken to an awful lot of lenders over the past 12 months. We've tried to get as much market information as we possibly can. The biggest thing we hear, and we hear it all the time, we'd love you to validate this, is finding the lending deals. You know that a lot of your customers need that lending, but in the example of VAT, we've seen people lending after the event, up to 2-3 weeks after the due date, a supplier payment not been paid, and they've got very penal rates to go and do that. We want to change that. We want to build a relationship between you and your customers so you can see the lending event before it happens, so you can react to it and you can be on the front foot. We want your lead generation, your marketing activity to be based on tangible data that you can assess from your clients. We want them to lend with you. We want you to keep them and retain them. Hopefully we can do that. So how do we go about doing that? Well, first and foremost, the most important thing is accurate data. What we've got to do with Slide is we've got to present to you events that are going to be very important. We've got to be able to give you a data set that will tell you, you know what, Joe Bloggs Limited is going to have a VAT payment on the 13th of December, and at this moment in time, it looks like they've not got the money for it. You're actually helping the customer in that respect because they won't get penal charges, they won't get the first and second strike offs from the VAT, from the HMRC people, and also they'll know that you're looking out for them to get them the best deal because they may well compare it to previous data and to previous lending. Now a really crucial thing, open banking has enabled something we call 4 eyes views. So what we can do is we can give you, if permission is granted, the ability to see your client's bank account and behaviours. It's happening hundreds of thousands of times an hour at the moment. It's a brand new way of doing this. It's not a clunky piece of technology. It's very slick. We do it here at the Slide app now, and we could give you the view of your clients as well as them having it at the same time. Big thing before, I talked about early sight, early view. it's something we trade on here a great deal as well. Within the slide app, there's an awful lot of functionality where the user can categorize their spend and they can name their suppliers, and we will be able to give them a different view of their bank account. But the most important thing for that is that behavior when they build the bank account they want will let them see the early issues. It will let them see the cash problems on the horizon before they exist. We'd really encourage you at the end to download Slide from the App Store and try the product, because we think it will give you a very, very positive experience about what we can do. Now, cash forecasting is up on the slide there. I'm pretty sure that every one of you as lenders will know what a good old-fashioned cash flow forecast is. I'm an ex-banker, so I definitely know. Very cumbersome, very, very difficult. We want to make it different. We're going to use AI, we're going to use machine learning, and what we're going to do is we're going to build 60% of that cash flow forecast for our customers. That piece of technology will allow our clients that use Slide to be able to have cash visibility easy. It's a recurring message that's very important. And the final icon on the slide there is quite a crucial one. It's all well and good having a cash flow, it's all well and good having all this information, but wouldn't it be great if we alerted the user they've got a cash problem, and then maybe, once again with permission, it's something I'm going to come back to a lot, we could give an alert to the lender to say, hey, Joel Bloggs has got a problem next week. They wanted you to know 7 days beforehand. That alert is based around user behaviors. They set their own lending criteria, they set their own level. So we want to be able to give those notifications to both them and you. The biggest problem that we've heard, or one of the bigger issues that we've heard as well, is the ability to build a relationship between you and your clients. When it's a traditional bank relationship, they have the digital channels, they have the right to ring them, they have telecommunications and omni-channel communication. When you're a lender, when you're a broker, you've got to hope that people find you by outbound marketing. You don't have an ongoing relationship with that client. We want to change that. Because of open banking, we're in a position whereby you can issue your client with a banking app they use on a daily basis, which is then tied to you. It could be branded, it could be data-driven tied to you, or it could just be behaviorally tied to you, so they've opted in to do that. The new legislation of open banking allows us now to enable this. It allows us to say, we could have an ABC limited lenders, and they could have a branded app to go and work with their clients. That will give us that chance for you to build a relationship. So not only are they maybe a website product where they're going in and getting a price for a loan, or they're a single customer that's come in for one loan, you may well be able to work with them to analyze their data, to analyze their cash flow, and to be able to say, hey, you know what, we can offer you a better rate at this time. The key benefit we see of Slide is building that relationship between you and your clients, and we hope you can see that we can enrich that relationship to make it much more tangible and to make it much more fixed, so that you can carry on and get them as a one-time customer, two-time customer, three times and beyond. Now, there's nothing like seeing these things in the real world, is there? So we thought we'd give you a bit of a real world example. If you look on the screen, you can see that it's the iPad layout of Slide. Down the left hand side, we've got the categories of spend. At the top, which isn't highlighted, we can show the income and the bank accounts that they've got. Any one of the banks in the UK all offer the ability to us to connect to them. At the moment, we concentrate on a core population. We will be adding more and more banks as the days go on. The key there is that, first of all, you'll notice that the product goes from left to right. It doesn't go from top to bottom as all bank statements does. And if you look at the top right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that the date is the 19th of December, and there's a red number there. That number is the VAT accrual, and that client is being told how much is going to debit their bank account on that day. Because within Slide, we work out the VAT, we give an indicative figure. Now, the calculation of VAT is an accountant's realm, where there are different reclaims, and half of a lease car, and commercial vehicles, and non-VAT applicable, and VAT exempt, and building new houses. I understand all that. What we want to tell people is what the money's going to look like. So what we'll do is we'll do a very rudimental calculation. We'll do a net position of VAT accrued. We'll take off the salaries and take off any of the fiscal payments that are non-VAT applicable, and we're going to tell that client. Now, what you're going to see therein is, a best example of that data is, we're going to show you when that client has got that payment to make, so you can be able to react to it. We can report that amount back to you. If it looks like it's going to breach their target balance, which is something the client enters in the top left-hand side of the screen, you may well have something there that's an opportunity. It's a forward view opportunity. It's proactive. You've got the chance to see what the client's doing. We've used VAT today as the the real example, because it's something that pretty much about 85% of all businesses are VAT incumbent, and they've got to do that calculation and work it. We also know that a great deal of customers use it as an overdraft, and they use it as a short-term lending. And when it comes to pay the VAT, it's a problem depending on what their scheme is, be it the margin or be it cash accounting or whatever model they work as well. We know that a lot of them get problems with it, and we know they come to you. We want to prove to you exactly what we can do. Now, we've got the relationship. This is really just to explain to you how we're going to do this. We would like to work with you in many, many ways. We don't see the technology as a one-stop shop. We think of ourselves here at the Slide App as very much people that provide business solutions. We don't provide just technology solutions. We want to work with your customers, and we want to work with you to be able to make it easier. We recognize that outbound marketing is very, very difficult, so we have a range of communications you can use with your customers. We have methods of communicating with those customers, be it from an email list or people that have opted in, so we could take them to the Slide App and we could onboard them. We can show them the help they can get and the support they can get. We can give them model templates. What we want to do is to be able to say to you, our lenders, that we can give you a rich experience which doesn't stop with the technology. It starts with the technology. We can show you something and help you get those customers so they use the product, they get the support, we can monitor them, we can give you a very, very rich relationship with the customer that is brand new and being built. We're breaking the model of normal marketing to clients. We want to do it digitally by use of an app. It's very, very different to what anybody else is doing. We think there's a gap in the market, but to do that, we recognize we've got to pull a relationship closer between you and your clients. So what's important is this is the start. When you look at the Slide App, you will see that transactions come in and they are allocated to the lines they go to. The client can see what the spend is. They can see their supplier payments, when they're due. They can see when somebody doesn't pay, which is a lot more important than when somebody does. They can see the accrual of their VAT. They can part pay. We'll be ready for lots of new regulations that are coming around the corner. But the future is almost more important than today. Now, I mentioned earlier auto allocation, so let me give you a little bit of an example. This is critical. In our Big Brother software, we allocate around about 1.5 million transactions a day, and what we do is we look at where they're from and we match them to supplier. We match them to estimates, which is something you can build in Slide. You can build your cash flow from it. But when a payment comes in that matches the estimate, it ticks it off and goes on the line. So your client knows it's been paid, and more importantly, you know exactly that client's financial standing. Auto allocation will be live by the end of February 2020. We'd invite you to use it again, try it on the App Store. VAT consideration, as I showed you before, we have the VAT line within the app. VAT is something that we consider to be crucially important. That will be live by January the 30th. The VAT line will be there, and we think it's pretty key because we think it's something that's uniform across a mass of customers. We've also got our browser compatibility. We have two things at the moment. We're iOS only, iPad and iPhone. We really wanted to work with what we considered to be the most technically capable population and the one that had the highest saturation within businesses. We know from our studies that is iOS. We will be delivering a browser. We hope that will be second quarter next year, so that the businesses that use PCs to run their daily banking and run their cash flow can do it on there. We've also got the ability that if a lender had the appetite, they could build their own front end. We have an underlying piece of technology, which is Cashback Q is at the end. It's an API suite. That word gets bandied around a lot now. I'll explain what that means. It's a website without a page. It means you can build your own. We could integrate it within your own digital offerings. We could integrate it within your website. Now, we're also going retail. The classification I discussed earlier, which is open banking, allows us to access any bank account that turns over up to £7 million in the UK. That includes home accounts and business accounts. A couple of benefits there. Number one, a business can finally see their business and retail accounts in the same place. We'll be able to do that in Slide. They could run a home budgeting account the same way that they could run their businesses. We will be able to offer specific versions of Slide for certain segments, so be that students, young businesses, gig economy. We can tailor the product to make it relevant for a sector. The most important thing is we're trying to get as wide a reach as we can there. We think there's a big market within the home banking and the home finances sector, and it's certainly something we're going to push. Now, we've got Cashback Q at the end, but I'm going to change the name of that. There are certain industry changes coming up which are critical. Number one is the collection of payments, so that your clients will be able to send a request for a payment, create it as a cash flow entry, and the other person simply approves it. So it's like a direct debit for small businesses, but they can pull that payment in. The beauty of that would be is that it can be approved and you will know about it. So it becomes a much more tangible cash flow. I'm happy to expand on that with anybody if they want to take it offline. The second one is there's a regulation launching in April 2020 called Request to Pay. It does operate along the same premises of what I've just discussed as well, but its relevance within the lender market is enormous for one reason only. You may well be able to show somebody how their cash flow would be affected by the lending they would take. You may well be able to offer a different kind of payment collection rather than direct debit. So particularly for those you guys that actually lend your own money, you're not broker driven, you would be able to offer something very, very rich. What I'm trying to get to the key point here is that here at the Slide app, we are very, very deep within the banking technology arena and within the regulatory things. We want to be able to show card payments within the Slide app. We want to be able to offer multi-channel payment resolution. So, if I give you an example, wouldn't it be great, and this is on our roadmap, if we clicked on a VAT payment and a dialog box popped up and said, would you like to finance this? And that pop-up then redirected them to your user acquisition. So you could take them through your own portal to get lending at that point. We could show the forecast of the money coming in, because that's what we are, we're a forecasting tool. We could show the money arriving, and you would have a straight-through process to acquire users. They would be digitally captured from the cash flow forecast, from the cash management, straight through to fulfillment on the lending panel. Backing that up as well would be the ability to look at behavioural data, which is what we will have. Not just the P&L, not just the balance sheet. We'll be able to show you exactly how people run their finances. I'm going to hand back to Graeme now, because I know we've had some questions that have come in during the webinar, and I'm very, very grateful for those. But Graeme, over to you.
Thank you, Simon. I think we've got time to cover 3 questions with the time we have left. Anyone else who's asked a question, thank you. We will send you an individual reply, be it myself, be it Simon, or one of the commercial team. Okay, Simon, question 1. Which banks are Slide connected to?
Hi Graeme, that's a great question. It really is. As a lot of people may know as well, open banking allows us to connect to an awful lot of banks. We took the decision in the first instance that we wanted to connect it to pretty much the biggest players. So currently we connect to HSBC, Lloyds Banking Group, Barclays, Santander and First Direct. I think what's important to say is that in the coming days and weeks we will be connecting to the Royal Bank of Scotland and NatWest. Also to Nationwide, and there are 4 or 5 others in the pipeline. One thing we really wanted to do with our bank connections was to make sure that we get the rich enough data from the banks. Open banking is a standard, but we wanted to make sure that we could present the data for our clients so that it was as relevant to them as it could be.
Perfect, thank you. And just to add to that, if you're not currently with one of the banks that Simon's mentioned, or your customers aren't, if you go to the website, theslideapp.com, let us know who you bank with. There's a button saying "Is my bank connected?" and you'll automatically be the first to know when your particular bank connection becomes available. Okay, question 2: can Slide make payments?
Once again, Graeme, it's a very good question. I'm very, very pleased to say that yes, we can make payments. So if I made the statement now that we can build a cash flow forecast inside a banking app that actually makes payments. So no longer is it a diary of entries that may well become payments or not. We can actually make those payments. And more importantly, we can delay them, we can part pay them, we can reschedule them depending on the user's cash flow needs as well. So we are allowed under the classification to both make payments, receive and see balances. So yes, the Slide app makes payments.
Thank you. Okay, just one more question. It says, I understand the premise for Slide being able to offer lending opportunities, but how do we see the lending opportunities?
Yeah, again, a really valid point. As with everything in a product, there is a roadmap and there is an evolution. In the first instance, we would like your clients to use the product. It's completely free. And then what we'd like to do is provide data to you. That data could be a sample set that's sent every week or every day or at a frequency determined by yourself. And in that, what we would do is report when clients have their balances, what their holdings are, and when they have breached their target balance that they've set up, or when they go into a negative position, depending on the data you want. We are very, very flexible about the data we provide, or we can provide. Once again, it's all about permission, but what we'd like to do is to work with each of you individually to say, right, what data set would you like? Would you just like to see the VAT number? Would you just like to see the supplier payments, the larger ones over 5,000, or when the account goes overdrawn? We can gain all that. We want to learn from you in this respect. We want to be able to give you the data that's most relevant to you. As this journey continues, what we would like to be able to do is to be able to offer prompts within the product that would say, click here for lending. So when the client clicked on their balance and they were overdrawn, it would give them a dialog box that would say, please let me apply for lending now. If that client had a relationship with you, we would love to be able to work with you under your pre-sanctioned limits so that the client could get fast cash. We could offer some kind of SLAs around, if you work with lender X, you can get your money in X minutes, X hours, X days. But I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Simon. And as I mentioned, if your question wasn't answered today, please email marketing@theslideapp.com and we'll happily answer any questions you have.
So that concludes our webinar on Slide. I hope it's not been too long out of your day. I hope it's been interesting and informative. What we're doing is very different. We really are doing something very different. We hope you can talk to us about this journey and you can maybe have some dialogue with us so we can show you exactly what we can deliver. The contact details are up on the last page there, and they're also on the webinar itself. We're at the start of a very, very exciting journey. We've got lots and lots of lenders talking to us, but we want to talk to more. The product is completely free, and you can try it out yourself by going to the App Store and searching for the Slide app. But I very much look forward to talking to you. If you've got any questions, please send them in. Thank you very much.